Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the Gangrene Against the World podcast. I'm Allan Simon. The New York Jets have one more chance to get their first victory of the season before their bye week as they head to Cincinnati to face the 3-4 Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals had lost 4 games in a row as they've tried to survive without Joe Burrow, and came back last week on Thursday night with Joe Flacco at the helm and secured a victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have looked like a much more functioning offense with Joe Flacco than they did with Jake Browning, and it's another opportunity to have a chuckle about the Jets when you look at Joe Flacco, who is with another team, having been successful once again last season and finding a way to stay relevant in this league years after the New York Jets decided he was too old and could not help this team win. They sure could have used him over the last couple of years as they suffered through the Zach Wilson years and Aaron Rodgers being injured, but the Jets, in all their wisdom, thought, no Joe Flacco, as he now goes to another playoff hopeful team and so far has looked really good, and it'd be very fitting if he goes ahead and has a big game against the Jets to keep Cincinnati's playoff push going. The Jets also will have to overcome some key injuries this week as they continue to be beaten down by injuries this season. Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner will be out, which means it's going to be another week of the shaky depth at wide receiver for the Jets. It's going to be Josh Reynolds again, who's played well. He's been the only receiver of this group who's played well. But the rest of the team, there's really no pass-catching options. Arian Smith has not shown an ability to get open and to use his speed at all, and that's been a real problem. Mason Taylor has his ups and downs as a rookie tight end, and they'll need him to have a better game if they have any hope of winning against Cincinnati. And also, the thing that has not happened all season long, if Breece Hall is playing, can you find a way to throw him the ball? And the person who will be throwing him the ball will likely be Tyrod Taylor, although that is in question as he is questionable with a knee injury. And in the never boring portion of this season, we of course have Woody Johnson this week, who just eviscerates Justin Fields with the media at the owners' meetings. He is supporting Aaron Glenn, which is what a good owner would do. But we know that Woody Johnson's not a good owner. And instead, at the same time, while he defends Aaron Glenn, makes it really hard for him to do his job in a couple of ways. And one, Woody Johnson is correct. Justin Fields has been terrible, and he has had a hard time completing passes. But does an owner need to use those words and be that forthright about how terrible a player is playing? Because one, it makes Justin Fields not want to take another snap for this team. Why would you want to play for an owner who feels that way about you, whether it's right or wrong? Two, Aaron Glenn was supposed to be having a quarterback battle this week, and now if he doesn't play Tyrod Taylor, if Taylor is healthy, then he's pretty much spitting in the face of his owner, so he has to play Tyrod Taylor. But he says this, and Tyrod Taylor then appears on the injury report. So there's a world where Woody Johnson destroys Justin Fields, says he's not capable of playing quarterback, basically, and then they will have to run him out there because Tyrod Taylor, who's an older quarterback and has injury problems all the time, has a hurt knee. You can't make the stuff up. It is the most Jet situation you can have every single week. And this team isn't just bad, they are dysfunctional, and dysfunction starts at the top. And even when Woody Johnson is trying to do something right, which is defend his head coach, his rookie head coach, who has looked way in over his head, he instead makes things worse. Because also, if you're going to stick with Aaron Glenn and you're going to stick with Darren Muji, you've just made their job so much harder. Because why would a free agent want to go to a team and play for an owner who talks about his players like that? And it's not about if it was right or wrong, because Woody Johnson was correct. Justin Fields can hardly complete a pass. But let the fans say that. Let the media grill Aaron Glenn about that. If an owner is going to talk to a player like that, players, especially in this generation, want nothing to do with that. And honestly, it seems that most free agents don't want anything to do with the Jets anyway. So it just makes everything worse, and Woody Johnson can never get out of his own way. And if you look at the 15 years that it'll be without making the playoffs at the end of this season, the one constant is him. Every quarterback who comes through here cannot be managed by a good head coach because a head coach is either the wrong guy or has a hard time functioning in a chaotic atmosphere. It's it is a dysfunctional place to work. And, there are certainly allegations right now against the president that are really serious. And if those are true, then that's a whole other element to this team and this leadership. But we're waiting to see what comes out of that. But the only thing that's constant about this team's struggle is Woody Johnson. He is the worst owner in all professional sports. He has been that way for a long time. It all started when Bill Belichick did not want to be the HC of the NYJ because he hated Woody Johnson so much. And once Johnson bought the team, he did not want anything to do with Woody Johnson. And it's hard to imagine a situation where things get better while Woody is at the helm, because Johnson has a hard decision to make with Aaron Glenn. Because if Aaron Glenn and the Jets lose on Sunday and they're 0-8 going into the bye and they continue to be the worst football team in the sport, he has to make a really hard decision. Is Aaron Glenn really the guy or not? And we could talk all about how we think he should be canned or not, or if he's capable of being a head coach here or not. But the reality is the decision comes from one guy, and it's Woody Johnson. And I have no faith in him making the right decision. And then, if, say, you have to move on from Aaron Glenn, and I think there's a world where you have to after this year, if you're going to have the first overall pick, and you're going to be drafting a quarterback, and you're going to be starting over again, I don't know if Aaron Glenn is the guy you want to trust with that. We then need to have Woody Johnson make a decision on bringing in a head coach, in which he fails at that all the time. He looks like he just failed at it right now. So, and if you are a veteran coach, say Kevin Stefanski gets fired by the Browns, which I think would be a mistake by the Browns, why would Kevin Stefanski come here? Why would a guy who has experience come here? There's a lot of guys in this league who are friends with Robert Saleh, and anyone who's friends with Robert Saleh will stay clear of this role. And listen, I know there's only 32 of these jobs, but if you're a prime coaching prospect, or you're a veteran coach who shakes loose like Mike Vrabel just did and goes to your division rival, none of those coaches are ever choosing the Jets while Woody Johnson's the owner. It's just not going to happen. And then what you're stuck with every single time is a rookie head coach. And ironically, the best coaching candidate who's going to be available most likely is going to be Robert Saleh, who's done an amazing job as a defensive coordinator with the 49ers again. And if you look at the offensive head coaches out there, I don't want anything to do with Matt Nagy or Arthur Smith, but those might be the guys you're stuck with if you move on from Aaron Glenn. So it's just a constant mess, and it never ends with this team because Woody Johnson and his ego and everything that is him refuses to sell this team. I wish he'd take his $8 billion, whatever it is, and just walk away. But instead, we're stuck with this team. We're not go too deep into the X's and O's. There's only so much you can talk about with this Jets team. If Tyrod Taylor is going to play on Sunday, I think he gives them the best chance to win. We saw in Tampa that he had a rough first half and then got better in the second half, getting into the flow of the game. And I think coming in at halftime against Carolina, it's a difficult thing because you have no momentum. And also, he's got no one to throw to. Josh Reynolds is his best receiver. Mason Taylor is a nice option. And for some reason, they can't get the ball to Breece Hall. And I wonder if they'll take it easy with Breece Hall because there's a really good chance they're going to trade him. So you're looking at Isaiah Davis in the backfield. And if you look how they line up against Cincinnati, Cincinnati runs the ball really well. They had a great week running the ball. Chase Brown looked really good against Pittsburgh. And without Sauce Gardner, you have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase running around. And you've got a quarterback who can still throw it downfield clearly in Joe Flacco. And I think this defense is going to really have a hard time making stops. Now, they might get Quincy Williams back, which will help, especially against the pass and just putting some pressure on a quarterback. Jamin Sherwood's done really well against the run. He's top 5 in tackles in the league, but he's been dreadful against the pass. And I think this matchup's a really bad matchup. And for the Bengals, they can be 4-4 after this week as they try to stay afloat and hope that they can get Joe Burrow back at the end of the season. So it's going to be a tough one in Cincinnati. Then after that, you have a bye. And if they're 0-8 at the bye, that is going to be a long 2 weeks. A win just pulls the release valve a little bit. It takes some of the stress away. And the places where Cincinnati are vulnerable is their pass blocking is not good. We know that. That's why Joe Burrow gets killed every year. But Will McDonald has not had a good season since having a promising start and obviously having that one great play against Tampa Bay. This isn't a great tackling team, but they don't have the playmakers that can take advantage of that, do the Jets. Unless Breece Hall somehow runs wild or Arian Smith finds something this week, and can make some plays in the middle of the field, there's nowhere where the Jets have an advantage. And Connor Hughes has said this a few times on Twitter, and it's true. There's no situation where the Jets have a competitive advantage against their opponent. The defense has played better, but you think they're going to take a step back because you're missing Sauce Gardner. And listen, the Sauce Gardner complaining is very legitimate early in the season, but he's had a really steady year, and he does not allow a lot of space. So when the ball's thrown at him, sometimes things can get messy, but he has been locking down his side of the field. But none of that matters now with him out. And T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are the best 1-2 receiving punch in the league, most likely. And you can't tell me Joe Flacco doesn't want to drop a bunch of points on them. So what you're going to need is this offense to function, and I don't see how they function. The line play has gotten worse as the season has gone on. Part of that is, they clearly have a hard time picking up blitzes, or their two young tackles have struggled at times. But if you're not going to have a big game from Breece Hall, and you're relying on Arian Smith and Josh Reynolds, I mean, that's how you turn into a team that doesn't win a game all year. That is that bad of an offense. And that's on Darren Muji. And, Garrett Wilson getting hurt obviously kills the team, but there was no depth from the very beginning. And it was a fatal flaw for this team, and it's why they're winless. And in the games where they've scored points, it's not even been in competitive situations. They've scored all their points in garbage time. And you put on top of that Aaron Glenn has a hard time making decisions, and that's how you turn into a team that could be 0-8 going into the bye. So the 5 keys to the game, they're really simple in a lot of ways. Number 5, the offensive line has to play better. This is not a great pass rush that they're facing. This is not a great defense that they're facing. This is a defense that should allow some points, and it starts with the offensive line playing better. And they need to give Tyrod Taylor a chance to be healthy, or else it's going to be Justin Fields back in there. And if it's Justin Fields starting and he takes a hit, then it's Brady Cook. And I'm not ready to have the Brady Cook conversation that I'm seeing on Twitter. That we could save that for the bye week. So the line's got to play better. Number 4, Arian Smith. He's going to have continued opportunities to show if he could be a wide receiver in this league. He looks a lot more like a 7th round prospect than a 4th round receiver. And a 4th round receiver in the NFL shouldn't look this bad. And when he gets the ball, he hasn't done anything with it, and he's had a hard time getting open to get the ball. Now, they haven't designed a lot of plays for him, probably because they don't trust him. But at some point, you got to utilize his speed and give him an end around, throw him a screen, do something to get this offense going, and letting him try to use his killer speed to make a difference. Number 3, it's Isaiah Davis. In the preseason, we talked about how the strength of this team was the running backs, and he was a part of it. He has had flashes where he looks like a really solid running back. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. And with Breece Hall injured and maybe not playing, or he'll be limited in the game and also might be traded, with Braylon Allen out, this is going to be Isaiah Davis's chance to make some noise. Number 2 is the defense. As a whole, I want to see if they can get any pass rush going against this team. Joe Flacco is obviously not a mobile quarterback. Even at his peak, he was not a mobile quarterback. And getting some garbage at his feet and getting some hits on him are going to be important, because if he has time to throw downfield without Sauce Gardner, that's how they drop 30 points again. And the Jets defense is a lot worse at times than the Steelers defense is. And even though they've been better the last couple of weeks, they need to do it again. Jermaine Johnson has to keep playing well. If they get Quincy Williams back, that's huge. It secures the middle of the field a little bit more. But as a whole, this unit needs to continue to be a strength that they've been the last 2 weeks, because if they have a game that they've had for the majority of the season, then this is a blowout beginning to end. And number 1, this is Aaron Glenn's last shot to show that he has what it takes to keep this team together before going into the bye week. And if this is a no-show performance, and if this is a dreadful game against a Bengals team that is really not that good, then we will be having a real talk, comprehensive talk during the bye week of what do you do with Aaron Glenn, and is this the right guy, and do we start talking about who you're bringing in next? Because 0-8 and looking like a non-competitive team for 7 of those games or 6 of those games is not acceptable. It's not acceptable at all. So those are 5 keys to the game. My official prediction, again, until I see it, I won't believe it. I think that the defense takes a step back against Joe Flacco and the good receiving core. And again, they ran the ball really well last week against Pittsburgh. I think they're going to have a hard time getting stops. And no matter who's playing quarterback, I don't think they have the skill position players to do anything on offense, even against a weak defense. So my official prediction is the Bengals 31 and the Jets 10. And that means the Jets will be 0-8 going into the bye week. So it was another crazy week in Jetland. An NBA scandal may have taken some of the pressure off of Woody Johnson's comments, as one league is dealing with a gambling crisis, but the Jets are an everyday crisis, and that stays this way this week. Jets-Bengals on Sunday, and maybe they pull a miracle and they get a win, and then the bye week's a little easier, but I just don't know how that's going to happen. This has been episode 25 of the Gangrene Against the World podcast. I'm Allan Simon. Thank you for listening.